The Guardians and Twins both had opportunities this weekend to take some steps forward and kind of grab the reins of the AL Central. Instead, they continue to treat it like a two-man sack race, blindfolded, going around in a circle. We'll talk about the most consistently inconsistent team in the majors, if there's a way for the Guardians to upgrade their roster with the trade deadline coming up, why the Guardians never pick a lane, and trusting the process.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday morning, everybody. We are just about 36 hours from the trade deadline by the time you are listening to this. This is Locked On Guardians. I'm your host, Justin Latta, as Jeff Ellis continues his wonderful vacation at an interesting time of the year. Boy, did you have fun this weekend? When we last talked on Friday, the Guardians got off to a good start of what I said was a very important series for them. And the rest of the weekend didn't seem like that. Really, first, I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day. We are free everywhere you can get podcasts: Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, where you can get the ad-free version if you'd like as well. We are all over the place. We have some new content channels coming your way too. Again, I want to remind you we are staying to our 30-minute deadline in these episodes. We will continue to hope to have some bonus content for you to go a little bit longer, just have some additional banter on things, but we have to stick to the 30-minute format with some upcoming content opportunities. So let's get into it. Yeah, the Guardians got off to a great start Thursday. You know, they had beaten the Royals, they had beaten the Phillies, they had looked like they were finally starting to put things together. The Pirates series was good. The Phillies series was good, sort of. They won the series, but it was tricky. The Royal series, for the most part, was good. And then Thursday was good. Friday and Saturday were not. And I honestly can't figure out whether or not which night was sadder. Friday, you lose to, Touki Toussaint on Friday. That's not great. Don't love that on Friday. Couldn't get a hit. The offense continued to kind of be a stick in the mud once again. And then Saturday, you lose to Mike Clevenger coming off the IL. And again, the White Sox are a defeated team for what it feels like the third year in a row. They are just not going anywhere. The core of this team's not getting it done for them. They are trading away pieces of that core that weren't going to be here next year. They feel like they're going to contend next year, but really looking at this roster, I don't see how they're going to, truthfully. I guess it depends what they do in the offseason. This is a team they still have a good lineup. I mean, Tim Anderson's been a shell this year of himself. He hit his first home run of the year off Logan Allen. Great. Yohan Moncada's had a frustrating year. He's still a talented player. Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Jake Berger. Tough player. Andrew Vaughn, tough hitter. Yasmani Grandal, Oscar Colas. This is still a good lineup. Has potential to be a good lineup. They just can't seem to get out of their own way. Sounds a lot like the Guardians, but the White Sox just don't have the pitching the Guardians do. And later on this week, I want to talk about, I have it on here to talk about today, but I want to set the conversation up properly. Trusting the process and the Guardians trusting their process and how far this trust goes and if the process is working and what happens when the process doesn't work. That's a more nuanced conversation I think we need to have after the trade deadline's over to see what they do. And quite frankly, I don't think they're going to do anything. It sounds like they're going to be content to sit back and just watch other things happen and not overpay. It's a seller's market, so they're not going to go out there. I mean, geez, the Rockies just traded Randall Grichuk and CJ Cron for Jake Madden and Mason Albright. That's a nice return for two rental bats that are, Cron isn't really much anymore. I do like Grichuk. We talked about Grichuk on here as an option. So that's one guy off the board. I don't know where the Guardians upgrade their offense anyway, truthfully. Like, it's not a good offense. They've got a lot of problems, but they're not really making room for these additions. It doesn't seem. So Friday and Saturday, very frustrating games. Logan Allen not really his best self on Friday night, on Saturday night. On Friday night, you lose a bullpen game. You get shut out by the White Sox. Touki Toussaint, Tanner Banks, Gregory Santos. Curry does fine. He didn't have a whole lot of control in that first inning. Daniel Norris came in and did Daniel Norris things. He was okay. Nick Sandlin was fantastic. Michael Kelly, not great, but whatever. You had 3 hits, or you had 6 hits, and you had an error. 1 extra base hit. Shocking. Not going anywhere with that. You're just not. You're losing to Touki Toussaint. Like he's been good lately. I'll give him credit for that. He's been good lately. Figures that he would pitch well against the Guardians in this situation, but just no real good approach. I mean, Jose was in a funk. Quan had a walk. That was it. Andres Jimenez, super aggressive again. Josh Bell, a lot of ground balls. Again, he's back to a bad launch angle. Will Brennan, had a hit in that game. Oscar Gonzalez, 2 strikeouts. Just the approach has not gotten any better. I know he walked on Sunday. Bo Naylor, 2 rough at bats. David Fry, they tried against the lefty. Gabby Arias didn't have a great game on Friday night. Saturday, again, another game that just got away from them. No offense. I mean, Quan had a nice day at the plate. Jose did have a double and a single. A couple of guys had hits. Josh Bell had a hit. Well, Brennan had a hit. Tyler Freeman had a nice hit. Tried to bring him back in the 7th inning, and they couldn't keep it close. And they got beat by Mike Clevenger and Brian Shaw. It's 2023. It's not 2018 anymore. You can't be beaten by Brian Shaw and Mike Clevenger, for God's sakes. That's bad. That was pretty bad. That game got away from them very, very poorly. Luckily, the Minnesota Twins decided they don't care either. I don't know. I'm not really sure why that team can't get out of their own way, to tell you the truth. I pay attention to all the scores, obviously, but my God, that team just the White Sox or the Royals just took it to them this week. I mean, the walk-off grand slam by Bobby Witt was fantastic. That was great. The Guard, like I said this on Friday. The Guardians needed a sweep or take 3 or 4, and if they had done that, they'd be in first place right now, because I didn't expect the Royals to go out and have the Twins number all weekend long. I mean, Ryan Yarbrough was fantastic again, so I don't know. I feel kind of better about what he did against the Guardians, because, and then I don't, because the Twins offense has been goofy all year too. Their pitching has kept them in it all year. That's not an offense that they're really proud of either. They've, Edouard Julian has been really good for them, and everybody else has just been kind of, it's just a bad offense in general for the most part. The Guardians really had a chance though. I mean, they took 2 of 4, and they are still a half game out. They didn't lose any ground. They gained ground, which is truly amazing. So I guess I have the Royals to thank for that. I again didn't expect that. But every time you feel like this team is taking a step forward, like they find quicksand. I shouldn't say quicksand because it's not that drastic, but they find a banana peel in Mario Kart, and they just spin around for a minute. Like they took 2 of 4 from the White Sox on the road, which is fine. Like it's not terrible out of context, but if you put it in context of season and what they should be doing and what the White Sox are doing, 2 of 4 is probably not exactly what you want, what you need. And I said this August schedule is brutal. You have 1 more in July with Houston Monday with Noah Syndergaard on the mound. You got 2 in August with them. You got an off day finally, and then you got to come home against the White Sox again. And again, imperative series to kick them while they're down. They have to take advantage of that at some point, right? But after that, Toronto, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati. You get a little break with Detroit, the Dodgers, Toronto again, and then you end the month with Minnesota. That could be a big showdown. Who knows what could happen the rest of August before you didn't get there. But like I said, Friday, this is a tough August schedule. This is kind of gut check time for them. And let's be honest, it wasn't until last August that the Guardians started to take off. They were continually flirting with this 500 mark last summer as well, and not in first place. The Twins were in first, and it kind of looked iffy. And the Guardians never did make a trade. Chris Antonio said they opted to keep the group together and see what happens. But again, the pitching was healthier last year, was better. The bullpen was fantastic. And the bullpen overall has been good this year, but there are, the cracks are a little more glaring. Sometimes they're more than others. The defense was better last year. The offense is about the same as it was a year ago. There's not as much running. They're not running as much. And I don't want to say that this entire season has come down to running, but I mean, when you think of the 2022 Guardians and you think of how they were winning games, it was slashing their way to victory with bloop singles, and it was stealing bases. And, what did they steal base-wise this weekend? I don't even know where they're at. They didn't steal a base today on Sunday. That's been down for them as well. And they were causing a lot of chaos on the bases last year, forcing defenses to make plays, to throw balls to second base, to make a perfect throw at third, to make a perfect throw at home, to make the catcher make a play, and taking extra base. That hasn't really happened this year outside of a few games here and there and a few moments in games like it did Thursday. Just hasn't happened. And that's why they continue to be consistently inconsistent. I mean, Steven Kwan overall is having a good year. Jose had 2 home runs Sunday. Sunday was a good day. I mean, it looked like it wasn't going to be Sunday. It was not going to be a good day. They let Michael Kopech off the hook early. They had the bases loaded. They got 1 run out of it. He threw a ton of pitches. He had 5 walks. A good offense taps Michael Kopech for like 5 or 6 runs. Guardians aren't a good offense. They still won anyway, thanks to Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan. And Aaron Civale had a great game. We're going to talk a little bit more about Aaron Civale. The trade deadline is coming up. We're going to talk a little about the offense, where the Guardians can upgrade, and why the Guardians never pick a lane. We'll get into all that coming up on Locked On Guardians. I just checked the FanDuel odds right now for division winners. Right now, the Minnesota Twins minus 290 to win the division. The Guardians plus 210. So not the favorites as of right now. Not a real shock. But you could take your first swing at betting on MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting on everything from the money line to any Guardians game or any game in Major League Baseball or any sport. The over-under, who you think is going to hit the first home run? Is Jose Ramirez going to go on a hot streak here? That would certainly be nice. And it's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And I can't tell you right now how important that is in today's cyber landscape. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There is no better place to bet on Major League Baseball than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball and Locked On. Guardians are headed to the Lone Star State to face the Astros at 8:10 on Monday. Noah Syndergaard, you can listen to his Guardians debut on the SiriusXM app. Just search Guardians on the app. All right, Aaron Civale, fantastic day Sunday overall. Vintage Civale once again. He had a great start last week as well, against the was it the Phillies? Really fantastic start last week against them. I should say against the Royals. He started Tuesday and Sunday, so it was against the Royals. 2 bad offenses dominated them, and it was all cutter curveball again for Civale. I mean, 5 swings and misses out of 9 swings overall on the curveball, 6 called strikes. He was really good. Velocity was, about where it's been. He is around the 88 to 90 mark. So the overall velocity remains down for the year for the most part. It's not trending up. So he is continuing to sit at that 90, 92 mark, 88, 90, depending on what pitch he's throwing. Most of the cutter is 86, 88. I don't know if the Guardians are going to trade Aaron Civale. The trade market certainly looks really good. Rental-wise, I mean, Max Scherzer did have an opt-in deal, and he kept it. Opt-out with the Rangers. He kept it over the weekend in that trade. The Mets got Luis Angel Acuna. Great trade for them. They weren't going anywhere this year, and Acuna is a good prospect, even if he's a little aggressive a hitter. And, Aaron Civale is certainly Max Scherzer. I think most teams, Aaron Civale is like a game 3 or a game 4 starter. I mean, I don't know if I would start him in the first round of a playoff series, depending on who's getting him, if they trade for him. And every team's going to know his injury history. So it's not like, a team's going to go out there these last 2 performances and be like, Aaron Civale, that's what our pitching staff has been missing. Every team is going to put who he is into context. And who he is into context is a very nice starter. He is a solid starter with club control left. It's going to be cheap. He doesn't strike a lot of batters out, but he's got good stuff. He's got good command. He keeps you in ball games. He's like I said, at best a game 3 starter in the playoffs. And you're getting him for 2+ years at this point. You're getting him for the rest of this year if you trade for him in the next 2 years at a very low rate through arbitration. He's not going to be a guy who makes a ton of arb. He comes with an injury risk. He's got a very extensive injury history. Thankfully, none are like elbows and shoulders. Luckily, so there is that. I don't think the medicals will be too scary on him. But that being said, the Guardians, I don't know if you can trade Aaron Civale right now and not get something back that says it's going to help us this year, it's going to help us next year, it's going to help us in 2025. You can't trade Aaron Civale for a 2026 piece. You can't keep, or for even 2025, you can't keep doing that. This team doesn't have the resources, doesn't have the time with Jose Ramirez, and I'm not going to include Shane Bieber in this because I don't even know what's going to happen to him this year. I don't know what's going to happen to him next year. So, for a while I used to say you can't waste Bieber and Jose's best years. I think Bieber's best years in Cleveland are behind him. I don't think he'll even be. I don't know if he'll be here next year or not. But I think the future for him is so in question. So it's just Jose right now, and keeping Aaron Civale is not going to change the Guardians' course right now of where they're going, whether it's 2024 or 2025. If you trade for some pieces that help you in 2025, 2026, it's probably not really worth it either. You have to find something that helps you now and in the future, which is why I don't think the Guardians will trade him. I think they should, if they get an offer, they absolutely should, but it's got to be a piece that helps them right now. It's got to be a piece that they control for a couple of years, no matter if it's a pitcher or a hitter in any direction of something they need. It has to be something that can help them now. It has to be the Trevor Bauer trade. It has to be the Mike Clevenger trade. A couple of those pieces from each trade help them right away. Something didn't work out. I just don't know if the trade out there exists. Like I said, Grichuk's gone. I don't know where the Guardians truly upgrade this year. Like, yes, they clearly need lineup upgrades. If you upgrade in the outfield, you're either benching Miles Straw, which, I think is fine. He didn't play 2 and 3 games of the weekend, which is good. That, keeps him in a bench role, 4th outfielder, pinch runner, defensive replacement. That was a good move for them. Will Brennan looks to be more of a regular center fielder now, which should have happened sooner. I don't know. I think it had to do with maybe not trusting Arias in right field full time, or David Fry. I guess it was okay for a few games, but not full time. They wanted to keep playing Brennan. And I love Will Brennan. I really think he's got potential. He has not had a good year. I mean, as much as I complain about Oscar Gonzalez's approach, Will Brennan's approach hasn't been any better. He's not walking a lot. He's over aggressive. It's not the kind of hitter he needs to be. It's not the kind of hitter that made him successful in the minors. If you make a move, somebody goes back to AAA or doesn't play, and how much are you improving your chances this year? What are you doing? Like, yeah, I was okay with Randall Grichuk if that was like an option or a piece like that. That seems to be like all they would do if they do something. But the Guardians are also now saying that, they're not going to pay, or rumor sources, Zach Meisel had an article on The Athletic saying that they don't appear likely to go out and trade for a rental bat at the current prices, not if it's going to be as pricey as it's going to be. And the rental market is very fruitful right now it's a seller's market. So they may sit and do nothing. But I'm like, okay, you trade for Randall Grichuk, does Will Brennan play? Do you send Oscar Gonzalez at the AAA? I guess he played right field. That's fine. David Fry, you got to try to find a way to work in, which, by the way, I'm not going to harp on it too much because the Guardians won Sunday, but Cam Gallagher played Sunday. The Guardians scored 3 runs in 2 games against Touki Toussaint and Mike Clevenger, and you're playing Cam Gallagher on Sunday. Like, yeah, I guess having 3 catchers, especially with David Fry, you need a 3rd catcher because that allows you to explore David Fry's utility a little more instead of just having him be a backup catcher. That's fine. And really, in theory, like, Cam Gallagher probably should play once a week so you can explore David Fry's utility. He didn't really play on Sunday. And it allows you not to have to overplay Naylor, which they truly haven't yet. But, there's some roster value for that spot. Not necessarily Cam Gallagher, who is the worst hitter in Major League Baseball this year. And you just need to look at, like, timing. Like, you scored 3 runs in 2 games against 2 very two pitchers that just have not been consistent this year and haven't had consistent. Touki Toussaint hasn't been consistent forever. Mike Clevenger's been hurt and not inconsistent since he left Cleveland, or he was still hurt when he left here the first time. Like maybe David Fry should have started Sunday, right? Again, they won, so I don't want to harp on it too much. But if Cam Gallagher plays like a Wednesday day game after a Tuesday night game, and you just won Tuesday night or something, whatever, yeah, because then David Fry can play right, or he can play first, or he can pinch hit against a lefty or something. That's fine. That's fine. But when you score 3 runs in 2 games and you go with Cam Gallagher, I mean, they got away with it, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, is this the right time to really be giving him his 1 start a week? Like, that's one guy you're okay doing that with, that role. I think the 3 catcher thing is worthwhile considering David Fry's utility, but you got to pick the matchups. And I feel like the Guardians got away with one with him being the matchup on Sunday, but that's why I'm talking, I guess, and not sitting in a dugout. We'll keep talking about upgrades. We'll talk about the Guardians never picking a lane and why. And we'll talk about the process, which I just kind of talked about a little bit about who you send down if you make a move. All coming up on Locked On Guardians. Will the Guardians get off to a good start against the Astros this week? The only way you're going to find out is if you listen to the Guardians on your Sirius XM app on Monday night at 8:10. Just search Guardians for the hometown call. Yeah, so I just don't know who's out there for the Guardians to really upgrade and who loses playing time. Because at some point, it's fine to go out and find like I said, a Randall Grichuk type or whatever. That's fine for this year. I don't really know that makes you a better contender for this year. I'd rather not waste the season, as I said on Friday, waste the season and not make the playoffs after everything they went through last year and go home in October. I'd rather not waste the year like that because, the Guardians are all rookie pitching besides Civale right now. And Noah Syndergaard's not a rookie, whatever. I don't know. So in theory, if they have enough pitching in the playoffs, maybe they could do something interesting. And as I said Friday too, playoff experience is pretty valuable. Even if you get knocked out, it's still good for these guys to have. They got a little taste last year, and more bites at the apple is not a bad thing. I don't know if they can really do anything with it, but nobody thought the 2016 Guardians or the 2016 Indians could go anywhere. Not that I'm saying this team is, but it's better than wasting a year sitting at home and not making a move to get in, or not getting in at all. Now, that's not at the expense of trading away a lot, an exorbitant cost for a Randall Grichuk. Like, I'm going to have some things on the trading deadline at the end here I want to save about advice for all these trades and how you're looking at them. But trading away an exorbitant cost for a rental bat doesn't make sense. It is a seller's market, and you're kicking the can down the road a year. That's what the team has been doing for a couple of years now, kicking the can down the road on guys. If Miles Straw looks like he's on the bench with Oscar up, we'll see what happens in the coming days. They got to make a move, and I think they have to do a pitcher. They have to send a pitcher down to activate Syndergaard Monday. He is on the 40, so he's already got a 40-man spot. I'd be willing to guess that it's either Norris or Kelly who goes down. Norris is out of options, probably clears waivers again. You could do that. They seem to like Kelly, so I think Kelly would stay. So maybe Norris goes again. So Oscar's going to hit for the time being, in the platoon in right field, where Brennan goes to right against righties and Straw goes into center, something like that. That's fine for now. Like, I'm not saying it's a preferred option, but based on what you have on your 40-man roster, it's fine. But if you acquire an outfielder, which they need a hitter somewhere. One of those guys isn't playing. And if that guy's a rental and is gone at the end of the year, you're just going to go into 2024 and say, what? Oscar and Brennan again? We still don't know if they are major league talents. We don't know. I think Brennan's a good major league hitter. I think he will be. He has not had a fantastic year yet. Gonzalez, you guys know how I feel about Oscar Gonzalez. If you listen every day, I'm not high on the approach. But you're just going to be answering the same questions again a year from now if you trade for a rental outfielder. So, yeah, I'm fine with going out and getting the help and seeing if it helps you in the playoffs this year. Like, it's still worthwhile if the price is right. Maybe you can move Civale and get a back end arm and a right fielder that helps you right now, and you don't have to worry about this, that'd be great if you can get a long-term solution right there. Even a 2 or 3 year solution would be good at this point if they are already kind of proven, right? So I don't know. It's just hard to see where they upgrade because you're not up. Left field is set. Second base, you guys spoken for. Third base is spoken for. First base is spoken for. You paid money to Josh Bell, so he's staying whether you like it or not. And the only spots you really have are center field, where you're finally getting Straw on the bench for the most part. So you're going to see somebody else in right field. That's the only spot you can really think of right now is right field or center field, and you can move Brennan back to right and keep Straw in the same spot. And then shortstop, it's Arias, it's Freeman, it's Rocchio at some point maybe. So there's very limited spots to upgrade. Like a bench bat would be good if you can go out and get a guy who can play multiple positions. Would be a nice add to this team as well. And I think they really just need pitching. They might need a reliever. They might need a starter. I don't know if another starter exists out there right now for them. So it's just hard to see where they're going to upgrade, and it's hard to see what they're going to pay. It's a seller's market. So I've been saying this for weeks. It's going to be a boring trade deadline, guys. I'm sorry, it is. Max Scherzer to the Rangers, that was spicy. I really think that's going to be it. Everything else is rentals because the cost of rentals is so high. Who's going to pay the cost of a cost-controlled player of any type? Unless you're talking about like a blockbuster swap of like, I just saw my feed that Dylan Carlson and the Orioles and Cardinals have discussed Dylan Carlson. I think I would like the Guardians to be on that discussion. I still like Dylan Carlson. I don't really know if I think that they can find his full potential. I think there's a very good potential player in there. I don't know if they can find it because they can't find it on some of their own guys, but it's a conversation worth having depending on who, again, the price, which is going to be a high price because he's a young player who has upside. The Cardinals haven't tapped into it fully yet, but they're trying to. Another team's going to try to do the same thing, and you're trying to pay for the guy that he is right now, and the Cardinals want to sell him for the guy he could be. So you've got to meet somewhere in the middle. And guess what the Guardians do? The Guardians never meet you in the middle. You meet them at their price, or you don't have a trade. And that's both a good and bad thing in some ways, which I want to talk about later this week on trusting the process and the Guardians process for all this, and to ask ourselves some questions. Is this working? The Guardians just don't ever pick a lane though. And they can't pick a lane. Like I've said all along, I hate bad seasons. Like it's not very fun to pick a team that continues to go in a 360-degree circle with this 500 record. It's not a fun. Jim Ingram, a guy I grew up reading for the News Herald, always said it's fun to write about the good teams. It's humorous to write about very bad teams. The teams that are in the middle, they're no fun. And this team hasn't been super fun this year. Unfortunately, they're not having fun. I'm sure they're not. They want to recapture last year's magic. It just hasn't been there. And I don't want to see a 100-loss season. I don't want to see this team tank because there's no guarantee tanking works, especially with the lottery. And you don't know how good the draft class is going to be. You're banking on guys 5 years from now, and you're banking on drafting right and health and all that stuff. And 100-loss seasons, no one's coming to see that, man. It's just, I couldn't personally sit through 6 months of 100-loss season. I would be far less interested. And you might say, oh, well, if it gets you one championship, I'm still in the camp where I think it's better to win, 88 games some years. And you have years like this where, things are a little more frustrating, but this is not a year it was supposed to be. I think last year was supposed to be this year, as I said before. And this year, maybe the year should have been reversed. I don't know. But the Guardians never pick a lane. They put their turn signal on and they're like, maybe we'll merge, maybe we won't, but we want the option to, but we also want the option to stay in our own lane. Like they would be terrible drivers because they just are so indecisive. And that's kind of frustrating as a fan, I understand. So they never pick a lane. They're always this camp where they buy or they sell. It's hard to really know what's going on here. Sometimes that's not the most fun thing in the world. And that's why I want to have that conversation about the process and if it's working and if that is a way that can work. Real quickly, I'm going to go over the limit here a little bit today. Trading deadline advice. Again, Twitter is a giant cesspool without the blue check mark being legitimate. Be careful before you retweet something. Read a couple of times or before you believe it. If it's not a source that usually breaks news, think twice about it. And be careful about, they just got this team's 28th or 5th overall prospect. This should be this trade for the Guardians. This would be the trade, like trading this, because farm systems don't match up, and you're reading it on one site that sees it one way or gets their takes from the front office on this guy, and it biases that. Some lists haven't been updated since the beginning of the year, that kind of stuff. And just in general, you cannot grade trades the day of the trade. Like, some of these trades take years to pan out concerning the guys you're getting, right? So it's all about kind of being even keel and playing things safe and trusting, who's putting this stuff out there, and not jumping the gun on every trade, not jumping the gun on the reactions and things like that. These things take a lot of nuance. And again, just, be careful about what you're reading, who you're believing, where you're getting the information from, and judging trades or trying to match up trades. And that trade value site, it's fine. You want to have fun. I'm not telling you you shouldn't have fun, but don't take that as gospel when you're looking at trades. Like, this value works. Like, if that's how you want to have fun, that's fine. Again, not saying you can't have fun, but be careful when you take that stuff as gospel, or you think that's how it should play out in the majors, because then you're going to be very disappointed, because that site is just not real life. Same with Twitter. So always be careful about the sources you are using and the sources you trust. Thanks again for listening to Locked On Guardians today. Download, rate, subscribe, leave us some comments. That always helps. I'll try to get us some comments this week. I know I haven't, because Jeff's been out, and Jeff usually handles comments on YouTube. I'll try to get some the next couple of days, just because we haven't done them in a while. So I'll get to them. Thanks for being an everydayer, to all the everydayers that comment. Thanks for listening and sticking with me as Jeff is on vacation. Hopefully there's some exciting news to talk about during the trade deadline. I don't know if there will be, but we can continue to, put our heads under the sand and continue to try to talk about it anyway, and see if the Guardians can go out and make some headway in Houston. And maybe they'll make the Guardians pick a lane. They go out and they win tomorrow in Houston. Maybe the Guardians say, all right, we're going for it this year. I don't know. They probably won't, but we can at least say that, right? Again, thanks for listening every day. Download, rate, subscribe, leave us some comments, all of that. Be careful on Twitter and all these sources during the trade deadline, and go Guardians, go.